election that we saw with Donald Trump was the way he leveraged celebrity to get himself elected. And we have DJ DeVille from Minneapolis here, and he's got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, since Donald Trump used his celebrity to get elected and get into power, do you think it would be smart for celebrities on our side to step up and get themselves into power to enact change to counteract what he's doing? Because I'd vote David Banner for president.
Trying to get me killed. All right, let me comment really quick. First of all, I want to I need y'all to know in Jackson, Mississippi, we have one of the first revolutionary mayors. His name is Chokwe Lumumba. He's one of the youngest mayors, and we're about to turn Jackson, Mississippi around.
We just elected a young brother, 36 years old, in Birmingham, Alabama as well.
So, but listen, let me say something really quick. What I realized is politics and America within itself was never set up to be fair. It was never meant for us. I honestly think that politicians are whores, and you're supposed to buy them. And I don't mean female or male, I mean prostitutes. So we have to do the same things that they do, buy elected officials and donate to elected officials, then hold them accountable, even if we got to get close to them and rub up against them and show them some of the old tip of David Banner. Because it ain't all gone. We don't need to leave it all. I still got a little bit.
But David, you make a good point, and what I want to do is get to. I know you. I'm with you.
I'll talk to you because I want to say something.
I don't want you to stop. I want to ask this question though, because I want to come out of this with some solutions. Okay. Because one of the last legitimate political national movements we saw was done by Sean Combs, and Vote or Die was an amazing platform that was a communications platform. What I want to selfishly do is see if Sean and some others would talk about the hip-hop PAC. And the hip-hop PAC moving into the midterm elections, raising dollars to support the candidates that we know are not whores, but have a passion for service and transition. Because to your point, David, if we're not playing that money game, then we lose from the local level to the top level. And there are a lot of brothers and sisters that would be willing to put money into multiple PACs, but we need the kind of personality to help drive it, Chairman.
And we also need the people who are qualified. I say this all the time, even though I'm very articulate, although they put us on CNN, we debate against doctors. We debate against lawyers. We debate against people who have socially engineered our neighborhoods and the places where we are from. So not only it's great to have a celebrity, but I think our power comes in being that celebrity, finding people who are truly qualified and making sure that we have the finances to support them.
True. Let me get a question from the audience.
Yeah. It's very meaningful that you guys are talking about the economic disparities. That's definitely a message that we're getting. It's resonant with our theme today with the Ask Diddy panelators, how to get to the bag. And Nicole Tinson-Johnson from Los Angeles has a question right along those lines. Thank you, Nicole.
Yes, thank you. So the unemployment rate has risen since Donald Trump has become president. It's been rising. I have a nonprofit organization that works to address and provide people with opportunities for jobs and internships. I want to know more about what we all can do to use our platforms to address the issues within our communities, like unemployment, like being homeless, like living in poverty.
And Nicole just said that the unemployment rate amongst the African American community is up by how many times?
3 times.
By 3 times.
Of our white counterparts.
So Mysonne and Rev, if you could chime in on this, because I think a lot of times we focus all of this attention at the president and Congress. When jobs are created at the local level by small businesses, a lot of the money for those jobs comes from money from municipalities and states. How do we focus on helping people organize local, even as they address issues at the federal level?
You think he said Rev?
Mysonne and then Rev. I said both of you.
All right. So that's really one of the points that I wanted to make. You know, it's a lot of grassroots organizations that are really doing the work. You pointed at Tamika. She's, you know, she organized the Women's March. She also works with the Justice League and the Gathering for Justice. And there are a lot of different organizations within your community that are doing the work. They're already getting funded. They're trying to get funds for community-based organizations, for jobs in your community. Start funding and supporting the local people doing the work. You don't have to create a new organization. You don't have to recreate the wheel. There are people, there are organizers in your community that are doing the work. We got Erica Ford, she's stopping violence in Queens. We got so many different, you know, there's so many different things going on. You just got to find out who's doing the work that you need done in your community. Like you're one of the people, what's your name again?
Nicole Tinsley.
And where you from?
From Los Angeles.
She's from Los Angeles. She's doing work. Find someone. We need to start supporting people like her. Fund her movement. Find out what she's doing. Start networking and seeing who's doing the work in your area, because a lot of these grassroots organizations are the people who fight to get the policy change. They get these people elected. We are hand in hand with the elected officials because we put pressure on them in the streets. And elected officials are able to move because they like, look, if you don't do what we say, then these people ain't gonna stop doing what they doing. So that's how it's you know, there's a chain of reaction. So you start supporting these grassroots, we get these elected officials into office that we want, and then they have our best interests at hand.
Ref.
You know, we have to remind ourselves of how Diddy got this thing started and how Revolt was birthed. Revolt was birthed out of a fight and a challenge to Comcast that came from 3 civil rights organizations: the National Action Network, the organization I'm a part of, the National Urban League, and the NAACP. Went into Comcast, and it was those in the air and on the ground that were saying to Comcast that if you're not going to represent the diversity and the call for our action, we will boycott our dollars from you, and we'll call all the sponsors and advertisers. Out of that was Revolt birth, which has now employed hundreds of people across the country. Shout out to Diddy. It goes to what he's saying, that if we do not unify and realize the air and the ground matters. Don't say, oh, those in the air don't matter. We can't work with civil rights group and for the hip hop community. We don't do it that way. We all work together to challenge the powers that be, to say that if you're not going to represent diversity, we're going to boycott you. So Revolt was birthed like that, and it created jobs. I think that it goes to what he's saying. We must fund those on the local level who are doing the work, because it's organizations like National Action Network that are on the ground challenging the policymakers and on the ground making sure that people get out to vote. There's those on a broad level who say, get out to vote on Twitter. But it's those of us on the local level and the organizational levels that are challenging the policymakers, which goes to the government dollars that you're talking about, because those in power decide where the dollars are going to go, which is why we need the hip-hop community to continue working with the civil rights community to go back to the local level to get people elected who represent our values, like Russell Simmons did with Reverend Sharpton. That must continue now, and I hope I get to work with David Banner and T.I. and those on this stage to continue to fight for that diversity and equality so we can truly create jobs in our communities.
Thank you, Rev. Shaheem, Rev makes a great point, and so often in hip-hop there's been this generational beef. So whether it's over what music you listen to versus what music I listen to, or what your policies are as somebody from civil rights versus what your policies are from somebody who's Black Lives Matter, how do we begin to use spaces like, because I think Revolt's done a dope job of being in places that normally hip-hop isn't, to have the conversations that other people won't have? How do we need to help other folks that just have a camera phone and a social media page to go spaces we're normally not to have conversations versus the places we already are?
Well, I think the most important thing is that, you know, everybody has to understand that their voice, their video content, everything counts. You know, like, you know, obviously Revolt, we see Puff, he's saying he want to buy an NFL team, and he has one of the biggest voices in the world. But the regular guy on 125th Street who sees a cop harassing a kid or beating somebody up, his content counts as much, because now everything goes viral. And, you know, I worked at MTV for about 10 years with some of these people in here, and I ain't never seen like the president of MTV get on social media, use a platform, and, you know, say everybody needs to unite like how Puff is doing at Revolt. So, you know, definitely you can send all that footage into Revolt TV. You can send it into Vibe. You can send it into Mass Appeal, because, you know, we as media people, we are going to give that voice, and we are going to give that platform to some of the people that don't have it. Like, you don't have to have 1 million followers on Instagram. Like, everything counts. Like, you put your footage in, and it's gonna go viral. And, you know, us as media, we are really unified. Like, you see all of us on here, the media people, like, we talk to each other. Like, it's not like it's some, you know, we competitive, but, you know, we're human. You know, we're in humanity. So it's like, I called Dayswan, yo, Day, did you see what's going on with Jerry Jones? And we talking, we strategizing, and we're all unified too.
And what I'm also appreciating is there are a lot of people that will just get up and go. So some of you know a sister by the name of Rosa Clemente, who's been in the hip-hop community for a long time. On her own dime, she's in Puerto Rico, trying to get to the places to tell stories that nobody else is telling. So sometimes it's not even just sending it to the outlets. It's just bigging up the people who may only have 17 followers, but are in a place that nobody else will go. And so I hope we continue to do that. I want to go back to the audience.
Thank you, Jeff. We hear you guys talking about money. We hear you guys talking about politics. And you're also talking about the places where we don't usually go. That means there's other disciplines, too, aside from finance and politics. And Deja Williams from St. Louis has a question about broadening those disciplines that we could leverage, right?
For sure. So I believe science, technology, and engineering will get us a bigger seat at the table to change the narrative of what's going on. How can you guys use your platform to get more minorities into those fields? I'm an engineer at NASA, and I'm the only one fighting for I'm the only one fighting for our culture at NASA.
I think that's fantastic, and if anybody on the panel wants to take that, I definitely want to. I think that there is a tremendous opportunity for fintech and market-driven solutions to social problems, because so often we show up with our hands out saying this is a moral imperative that you should help make our community better, versus here are the ways we can make our community better and make money at the same time. And so I know that there are others in this room, but I would be willing to talk to you after this about developing young people committed to fintech solutions to social impact problems that we can begin to go to. And it's happening already. So there are some social impact investors that may be in the room, but there's still too many people like you with great ideas disconnected from the social impact investors. And whether it is the names that you know or the names that you don't know, there's some black folks in Silicon Valley who live by social impact investing. They just don't know you. So let's get you and some other folks together, identify sectors where you want to create impact. What's the technology? What's the market value? And then how can we make money and create metrics for the impact that's made in communities? And I'm willing to connect you to anybody you don't know, but let's pull together a team of people that helps create a pipeline for young people who want to do the same thing.
I think that's, I'm sorry.
Karen, please.
I just want to acknowledge companies like Google, Black Girls Code, who have done incredible things by inviting media and peers into their office so we can get a better understanding of STEM courses and where technology is going, to the point where I was able to create a STEM course in class in Haiti for about 30 children. So giving them the opportunity of these aren't things that they get to see often, from a playground to just sitting on a computer to understanding technology. So there are things that are out there. Google is doing a great job. Black Girls Code, especially, I'm just going to keep reiterating Google now, but you should definitely check them out.
Absolutely. I want to get another question from the audience.
So we're talking about systemic change, and Mosik from Los Angeles has some questions around that, right?
Yes, sir. Excellent. Diddy, thank you for having us here. Everybody, thank you for being here. I've been doing a lot of research lately and reading lately about systems and structure. A lot of what we have and what we're facing has been designed, right? The stage that you guys are on has a structure, and it has a certain capacity. And if you exceed that capacity, it's going to crack, it's going to break. I got a feeling that we're shifting. Clearly, every system and structure that's in place now is cracking.
So shift to your question for me.
So my question is, Absolutely, I love that. My question is, when you look at the systems and structures that we have in place now, whether it's government, whether it's criminal justice system, whether it's education, what do you see in terms of it changing for people of color, for us, moving forward? And how does that look like? Is it social entrepreneurship? Is it entrepreneurship? And so on?
Well, and obviously, there are shifts that can take place in all different places. If
I don't understand the question.
So the question is this. Anytime a structure is designed and there's enough force against that structure to break it, it creates a shift, whether it's in an economic industry or whether it's socially. Do you all see the system breaking?
He said he see the
shift,
but then he said, how does the shift affect black people? I mean,
well, that's why I rephrased.
We gonna shift. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that it empowers people who deserve to be empowered. It gives people a voice where they were once voiceless. It gives people ability to do when they once were, you know, immobilized. I think that those are all broad answers to your question, but specifically, I think you have to get more specific in detail for us to give you more detailed answers.
Yeah, so are you saying, like, what do we do after the shift? Is that more what you're leading to? So, you know, I have a theory for that. Because
that was amazing, because I didn't translate that way at all. Brother, you are brilliant.
Awesome.
So, look,
awesome.
I have a solution, I guess, for that, because I think our biggest problem as a body of oppressed people is individualism. We don't know, we haven't found a way yet of how to respond as a body of people. I think the first thing we need to do, is, because look what's going on with the NFL right now, right? We're all mad. We're all pissed. We're all on Twitter. We're all saying shit. We're all saying what we think needs to be done, but we're all discombobulated in our response. There's no strategy. There's no team in our response. Like, I think what we need to do is appoint leaders. You know what I mean? We need to appoint leaders, a body of people that speaks for all of us. You know what I'm saying? So we could learn how to respond as a body of people. I think that's really what we're missing, and that's what we do after that shift. You know what I mean? We need to keep shifting. We can't just, all right, like, for example, President Barack Obama. That was a great shift for us, and then we stopped shifting. My president is black. Turn my back. We need to learn how to come together as a body of people and respond to the world.
David, let me ask you this, because, no, I think Joey makes an incredible point. But sometimes we're comparing apples to oranges. So when I look at the Jewish community, or I look at the Korean community, or I look at I looked at the far right, or in some cases even left-leaning liberal white folks, they got an institution for everything. So they got an institution for the protection of underwater bubble blowers. And if you mad that somebody discriminated against an underwater bubble blower, there's a place you can go where somebody's developing a narrative. You can give money. They got Negroes, goons ready to show up to protect the underwater bubble blowers. How do we begin to do more building instead of just talking? Because if we don't build infrastructure, to Joey's point, where's the institution that creates sustainability? And it can't just be NAN, the NAACP, and the Urban League over and over again for a generation that don't want to be down with them.
I think another point that I want to say is to that point, is pooling. That's something, it goes back to the individualism point that I'm trying to make. Like, we tend to stand out on our own a lot. We don't, like, what we need to do more is pull together as people and put our ideas together, put our money together, put our minds together and be like, okay, what is the solutions we need to make? All right, we need to make these institutions. Cool. Now with this established group of people, great minds, great thinkers, big wallets, let's build those institutions. You know what I'm saying? I think that's
I want to disagree. I want to disagree with a certain point or aspect that you mentioned.
I was waiting for that.
And you know I'm coming for you.
I'm waiting for it.
I disagree with that, because here again, there we go again with the air and the ground. Being able to strategize, which is what Joey's saying. You can't say NAN, NAACP, and the National Urban League, three legacy organizations, we're going to push them aside. Millennials aren't a part of that. Not you. I'm talking about the generation, the divide here. You can't say millennials aren't a part of those organizations, not you in general, that we are not going to play a part. We don't have no representation there. Because it's not true. The reason why I'm on this stage, Tamika Mallory, my big sister in the movement, who came out of National Action Network, there is a history of legacy organizations playing a pivotal role in the development process for those other movements to occur. So we cannot say legacy or new. We got to say both. You attack the air, you hit the ground, you hit the left, you hit the right. Shane, you do this. David, you do this. T.I., you hit this. We all got a lane in this movement. And all of us matter, which is why Joey, what he said is important.
And Rev, but the reality is the NAN, the Urban League, and the NAACP are stable institutions.
Right.
So it's not about attacking them on any level. I was the National Youth Director at the NAACP, so I get it. My issue is, how do we fund new infrastructure so that they can be on the chessboard with those organizations, not instead of? Tip.
What I heard when Brother Jeff was speaking was that, you know, people in this generation, not that, you know, they shouldn't work with, you know, those organizations, but they want to be a part of an organization that is more relatable to them and their lifestyle and their generation, something that speaks to them that they could be a part of, and in accordance with that organization, they then can partner with these more established organizations. But if they just have to fall in line with those already established organizations, then they feel like there's nobody around me that really, you know, is relatable.
And we need to welcome them.
So let me do this.
But in order to do that, we have to establish these organizations for this generation that's present. You know what I'm saying?
I want to go to the audience, but I don't want anybody to say that I ignored the only white woman on the panel.
Who white?
And so
who you, Vanessa? Who you calling white?
No, Vanessa, you have been listening to this conversation. And I'm wondering what observations you may have had that we haven't talked about yet. What are you hearing? What recommendations might you have, or just insights from what we've talked about thus far?
My job is to document hip-hop, right? Not to make the movement, to document what's going on. And I think the biggest challenge we see is that, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but it seems that many of the young artists aren't interested in this topic as much as the older ones are. And I think, how do you get the younger artists to care? That's, to me, the biggest question. We want to write about the 25 best new fuck Donald Trump songs. We want to write about people talking about it. We want the Eminem verse to happen and every rapper to talk about it or make their own verse. We want to document this stuff, and we want to do it with respect and credibility so that hip-hop is revered in how we document it. But at the same time, it seems like it's very hard to get the younger group that is so influential, that has the 5 and the 6 million Instagram followers, to be as passionate about what's going on as some of the vets. And I think Joey's an exception, and I adore Joey for that reason, but I think he's a bit of an exception, and that's the problem, is how do you get the young guys with the influence to care about this issue? And I think just from documenting it, a lot of times you see the older rappers, they have kids, the kids grow up, they start to get more politically influenced, they see the world as a bigger picture, and they understand that these issues are important. How do you get those issues to resonate with a younger audience? I'm not totally sure, and there's definitely rappers doing their part, but I get a lot of new artists coming in, and I can't say a lot of the new music coming in has a political tone to it. Off what Daytwan was saying, the 60s was a musical revolution as well. I don't know if we have a musical revolution going on equal to what we had in the 60s at that time period in the same movement. So I don't have the answer, but I think it starts with this generation a lot with the youth culture. How do we get the young artists in this room or who aren't here to be interested in this topic, and then to play a role in it?
So I want to get to Joey, David. Listen, before you chime in, though, there was an interesting point. We make these miscomparisons with now in the 60s because there was an engagement of young people in the 60s. You couldn't even be on the front lines unless you got trained. Yes. And we're ignoring these youngins and then expecting them to be conscious. And so I want you all to talk a little bit about because I know it's happening in certain places, but your insight on what's the engagement mechanism for some of these youngins. And then David, I'll let you come at Joey and then David.
Me first?
Yes.
So to that point, right, because that's actually what I was, leaning towards saying is back in the 60s, we knew who our leaders were. And we didn't want to embarrass them. And we didn't want to be a disgrace to them. So I think what's going on right now is all of our leaders got taken out. And this is a part of the new plan. You know what I'm saying? This is a part of the new agenda. They wanted this to happen. This is their plan. You know what I'm saying? This is surprisingly shocking to us, but really what the solution is to this is we got to build the bigger voices. Right now, the youngest voices have the biggest voice. The youngest people have the biggest voices right now when we're talking about hip hop. What we need to do, if we had our leaders, that wouldn't be the case. So it goes back to that point. Like, I think that is really a very big solution in our advancements and our continuing to shift. You know what I mean? We got to find those leaders. We got to appoint them. Who are we listening to? Who's speaking for us?
You.
David.
I am, but I'm only one person. There's not enough people even backing me up for me to be the proper leader.
But Joy, let me, before you go, David, I don't even know if you know how many people you've inspired just since this broadcast has been on. No, seriously, just since this broadcast is back.
But that's to his point.
So just being you, and the more we can encourage cats to be themselves and walk in their brilliance, even if it's unsophisticated, begins to inspire other cats to follow suit. My son, go ahead.
That's exactly to his point, is that we need more things like this, because these type of artists are not celebrated. The content that we bring are not celebrated. When I listen to the radio, when I look at most of the media sites, Joey Badass is not celebrated. He's one of my favorite artists, but he doesn't have the same notoriety as some of these artists that ain't talking about nothing. So how do you expect these kids to choose Joey Badass, following Joey Badass, over somebody that you are highlighting and making look like a hero to them?
But that's also the burden of. I do agree. However, as an artist, that's also the burden of Joey Badass to balance the scale of information with entertainment. Like, that's a part of our responsibility. So we can we got to put a little applesauce in the vegetables sometime. You know what I'm saying? It's a way to do it. You know what I'm saying? You just, and I think progressively you will get there. You just can't say, well, they ain't messing with me, so I ain't, you got to progressively keep trying.
And you do the applesauce thing well, Tip.
But one